My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Every week, we break down full fight cards, giving you our picks, our bets, and our fantasy plays. So make sure you like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. And this breakdown is brought to you by BETU Play to Earn. BETU Play to Earn is the world's first play-to-earn sports and esports betting game. Check it out at betuearn.com. That's bet, the letter U, earn.com. Next up at UFC 271, we have two former Jacob Lock of the Weeks. Kyler Phillips fighting Marcelo Rojo. Kyler Phillips, 9-2 overall. He's 4-1 in his last five, coming off the incredible fight, but a loss to Julian Paiva. Marcelo Rojo, 16-7 overall, 3-2 in his last five, and he's coming off a short notice loss to Charles Jourdain. This fight has potential to be fight of the night. Two really exciting guys, always busy, always forcing action, always looking to make something happen. Kyler Phillips is a very diverse striker, a well-rounded fighter overall. He can strike, he can grapple. His feet are always moving, which makes him difficult to hit and to take down. Most of the time, Kyler does a very good job mixing things up, but he is willing to slug it out and put on a show, and that can be a problem for him. 3 out of his last 4 official UFC fights have performance of the night bonuses, including his loss to Julian Paiva, where if you look at the stats, he won. The stats tell a very different story than the actual fight. He had more strikes, more takedowns, but in reality, he gave up poorly timed takedowns. He made a couple of really poor decisions, and that's ultimately what cost him the fight. He was too excited, some low IQ moments, and that's why he lost. Marcelo Rojo, he's coming off that loss over Charles Jourdain, but let's not forget that he took it on short notice, and it was up a weight class. We also can't forget that he was winning that fight before ultimately he gassed big time hard and then was stopped. He's a very exciting fighter. He comes forward. He's got solid pressure, good hands. His offensive wrestling could use a little bit of work, but his wrestling defense is very good. Theoretically, this is a very easy pick, right? Kyler will have the more technical striking, definitely be the better grappler. But the reality is that he makes mistakes in his fights, and that's what cost him his win in his last fight. You could call it low IQ or just overexcited. I mean, the guy only has 11 fights to his name and gets a little excited. If he makes those same mistakes against a very game Rojo, he could find himself in some trouble because Rojo has a knack for sneaking out those late surprising wins, those come from behind wins, snatch something up. I do think Kyler gets this done. I think he does it with his offensive wrestling. He averages 3 takedowns per fight, but he will need to be on point, not overextend himself. Don't overcommit to things that aren't there, so he doesn't get himself into some trouble. I do expect a fun back and forth fight. I like Kyler Phillips to win, potentially a plus 3.5 on Marcelo Rojo. What do you think?
That's a dumb bet. Yeah, so you guys are very welcome for this matchup. You mentioned former lock of the week, former lock of the week. I feel like I'm a proud parent watching my sons, I guess, fight in the front yard. I don't know. I guess that's not a normal thing for a dad to be excited to watch his sons fight, but this is how I feel in this matchup. And this is Kyler Phillips' fight to lose. You mentioned his fight IQ. I think it was more overconfidence in that matchup versus Paiva, because if you watch that Song Yadong fight, his fight IQ was off the charts, and I mentioned it in my breakdown as well. He knew when he was losing exchanges, and that's very important with the fighter, because a lot of times you'll see fighters, and Rojo is kind of one of those fighters that once they get in an exchange, they just want to get the better of every single exchange, where Kyler Phillips knew when to get it out. His footwork is incredible. I was made fun of a lot for that pick, that Sonny Young pick, the lock of the week pick, and he came in and outstruck Yudong, and in those exchanges that he was losing, he was getting those takedowns. It was very, very timely takedowns. He knew when he needed the takedowns to steal the rounds if he was losing the exchanges. I think he does the same thing in this matchup. Listen, I love Marcelo Rojo, and this dude is an absolute dog. And we saw that versus Charles Jourdain, and that looks even better now because now we know what Charles Jourdain is, right? He is an absolute dog, and he took the round from Charles Jourdain. Eventually, he did get tired. He did get finished, but that's kind of what Charles Jourdain, we found out, does to people. He kind of just wears you down and finish you in the third round. And eventually Marcelo Rojo, he put up a hell of a fight because he was getting beat on that entire third round and almost survived to go to a decision. But, you know, I'm all Kyler Phillips in this matchup, but I put, for my heart, I did put a half a unit money line bet on Rojo because this dude is a dog. He's one of Moreno's biggest training partners, so he's been training Moreno for Figgy. I think that he might have you mentioned the good wrestling defense. He might have some, surprising offensive wrestling on his half. And this dude, when it seems like a lot of times those fights that he wins are fights that he's losing. He gets hurt. He comes up, he throws a wild knee or he throws a wild elbow, and he catches a guy. So I put a half unit on him to win. I don't think he's going to win, but I'm going to put maybe a full unit on like an inside the distance decisional action because he's got the opportunity there. He is tough. Kyler does get a little too aggressive at times, but Kyler Phillips, this is your fight to win or your fight to lose basically 100%. He should dominate the matchup in the striking or in the wrestling and the grappling, but Marcelo Rojo's a dog. I wouldn't be surprised if something wild happens with Rojo. This is definitely going to be the fight of the night. I said last week the Peterson and Arosa fight was going to be the fight of the night, possibly the fight of the year. This could top it, honestly, because both these guys are wild. They're both tough. And I can't wait to watch. My boys. These are my two boys. Kyler Phillips, Marcelo Rojo. Get after it. So I'm excited that it's the main card they'll put on the show.
Yeah, I think the pick is Kyler Phillips, but I agree with a bet on Marcelo Rojo. So I'm not going to money line him. I'll do more of a safety net bet. So I either there's two safety net bets that I like on Marcelo Rojo. Plus 3.5, which is buying one single round on the judges' scorecard because I think he'll absolutely take a round. I imagine those odds are not great, but I like Marcelo Rojo to keep this fight competitive. Or I'll do whichever one has better odds. Inside the distance decision, no action. Because like you said, he could catch... Kyler Phillips' cardio is not very good. He gets exhausted. He slows down big time.
I think it's better than you think, but he goes hard. That
fights
dude goes
so hard. Yeah.
He's like Fiziev, right? Where Fiziev is like, I have good cardio, I just fight too crazy. And that's what Phillips does sometimes.
Yeah. So I like... if Kyler Phillips gets tired late, that Marcelo Rojo can pull something off. Because Rulian Paiva also made some crazy decisions in that fight. So if all of a sudden Marcelo Rojo, who has a knack for finishing, has way more experience than Kyler Phillips has, could sneak something out. So I do like a bet on Marcelo Rojo. I'm going to grab whichever one has better odds. I'll let you guys know. Both of those safety net prop bets are at wewantpicks.com/bets. BetOnline is the one partner that offers them. So jump in, make a deposit. Let me know after you do, and I'll send you $50. What do you think of DraftKings and Monkey Knife Fight?
It hurts my heart, honestly, to pick Kyler Phillips and DraftKings against Rojo, but I think the takedowns are going to be there. I think his wrestling is very underrated. I know Rojo has good takedown defense, but I think Kyler's able to get it, and I think he's able to wear down Rojo. I think both these guys are tired, and I think it's one of those sloppy fights into the second round, into the third round, but I think Kyler Phillips has the heart and is able to break Rojo, so I might play the $9,400. But the Monkey Knife Fight, I love the more in the Monkey Knife Fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I agree with that because I think Kyler Phillips could probably end up being worth it quite a bit if he's getting a ton of 3 takedowns per fight he averages. That's 15 points right there. Add 30 if he wins a decision. That's 45 points without a single punch, no control time, nothing else happened in that fight other than what he averages in takedowns and winning a decision. So I agree. And then Monkey Knife Fight's interesting. It's probably more. It is probably more because I think it's a war. I think it's a much closer fight than the odds. So it's probably more. And if you want to check that out, wewantpicks.com/MKF.